Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to the show! I don't know. Sometimes you gotta just do it. I try to do it differently every single time so that you guys don't get bored. Maybe I do. What is happening here? Tonight, it's Monday Q&A. Do 2-inch tiny whoops suck? We shall answer the question. Or is this the way? That's you're just watching. Unfortunately, I lost the light very quickly, and I've been locking the settings into the 04, so that the shutter speed's not moving around, the ISO's not moving around, because I'm trying to make sure that we're not going to have jello issues. I'm trying to find jello problems and sort of figure them out. With a hard-mounted camera, with this Happy Model Mobulus 704 canopy, I have not had a hint of jello yet, which is really, really nice. Unfortunately, Rocksteady absolutely does not work, and I'm assuming that GyroFlow will also not work. It looks like they put a little too sensitive of a gyro on the camera, which is a fairly common problem with HD cameras, with tiny little lightweight HD cameras. So you're just going to have to get good, scrub. You're just going to have to learn how to fly smooth. It's like 6-7 years ago all over again. back before GoPros had hypersmooth. If you wanted smooth flight footage, you had to put the time in and actually get good as a pilot. And we're back, which for me, you know, easy for me to say, right? I've been flying for over 8 years, and I've been focused on figuring out how to fly super smooth for the majority of that time, because I don't want my footage to be super thrashy. I want like normal people to be able to watch my flight footage without getting sick to their stomach. But yeah, for everybody else, there are some tricks to it, which I've talked quite a bit about. I did a live stream about rates a week or two ago. Talked a lot about it in there. Throttle Expo, I've talked a ton about. That's going to make a huge difference. And just sort of, you know, changing your approach. If you want your footage to look smoother, focus on flying smoother, right? Don't focus on fancy technology and whatnot. Although it looks like the Beta FPV canopy might have enough soft mounting for you to be able to use Rocksteady and Gyroflow. Unfortunately, that canopy is kind of like complicated, basically, and you might, and you're probably going to run into jello issues with that canopy. So I'm still waiting for mine to arrive. I ordered a few of them many weeks ago. Unfortunately, I ordered them right on top of Chinese New Year, and so they didn't ship. I don't even know if they've shipped yet, but eventually they'll show up, hopefully. So yeah, there's that. I'm letting the flight footage from earlier today run here, and it's worthless. It's just super dark. It's completely dark. I didn't realize that. So this is the onboard foot. Well, you know, maybe the footage from the goggles is. It was not this dark in the goggles. This is like unflyably dark here. I don't quite understand why it's so dark here on board, because I was able to fly. I was a little uncomfortable, but it was not nearly this bad. I don't understand why the onboard would be any different than the goggle footage, but we're about to find out. So that was like the second or third file. Let's see. So here was the first file that was at the beginning of the live stream. And it's getting a little dark by the end of this. And now we're into the second file that we were just watching. I mean, that's pretty dark. Wow, it did not look that dark in the goggles. That's actually... I'm glad that this is happening. All right, so look. When I was flying, it was not this bad. If you're going to have collect your HD footage from your goggles, right, or from the onboard single camera setup, set the brightness of your goggles to match this. And I'm going to do that right now before I forget. Because, yeah, in the goggles, I thought that I was totally fine, but apparently the brightness in the goggles is cranked up a little bit too much. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? And so, if this happens to you, if you're going to use the 04 system, yeah, do what I'm about to do. This is going to be kind of inexact. I'm just going to go down a couple notches on the brightness. But, yeah, this is kind of important. So the brightness in the goggles is like 3/4 of the way up. It's not super bright. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 notches of brightness, and it was on 1, 2, 3, 4. It was on the 4th notch, so I'm going to go down to the 2nd notch of... Oh, fucker. The 2nd notch of brightness. Come on, man. I'm pushing upwards. Stop it! This little trackpad on the goggles, too, can eat me with a spoon. Okay, so there we go. So the brightness on the goggles is turned down. This is the second time that this has actually screwed me over. The other night, I got a bunch of footage that looks exactly like this. And now I know why. So yeah, if you're going to use DVR or onboard flight footage from... If you're going to run 04 or 03 and use the footage as DVR... There you go. Fly it in low light, and then watch it as soon as you're done flying it. And if it was brighter in your goggles when you were flying it, turn the brightness on your goggles down. Make sense? In the chat, Mick Mucus was first. Hey, Mick Mucus, you're Double Deuce, right? You guys kill me with all these different names that you've got. Mick, if you're not Double Deuce, who knows who Double Deuce is? I thought that I could search my Patreon for Double Deuce, but it's not coming up, and I'm pretty sure it's Mick, but I don't want to ship this to the wrong thing from the giveaways a couple Mondays ago. I flew this thing inside too. We're gonna look at that. That was a woo boy. Frank Nicholas, Ciotti, Curtis Hayes, Islander FPV, Chaser FPV, Doubles, Craig, McBucas again, Render, Metal Dirtskin, Kevin Sumner. What's up, Kevin? How you been, brother? Game Cinna, Denzel the Terrible, Greg Torres, Kai Boy, Drone Doc, Kelvin, Scotty Scott, Tommy Lou, Morton Upshot, Curtis Hayes, Nitrous Chimp, Levster, Mr. Meaty. Mr. Meaty. There's a fucking story behind that one. Per Side FPV, McMucus, Brandon's Baked Beans again, Midnight Jesus, Flycadelic 661, Juiced, Kelvin again, Notice again, Anonymous, Lancelot Lala. Lancelot is just a fucking funny word. Louie, Metal Dirtskin, James Thomas, Mac FPV, SOS Death Pile. Lots of new people. Welcome, friends. Thanks for coming over, probably from Joshua's live stream. And as always, thank you, Joshua, for pimping out my stream and sending people over. He is a. I am very lucky to consider Joshua a friend, and to have been able to spend a good amount of time talking to him over the years. We met at Quad Camp Atlanta. Oh boy, 7 years ago, maybe. And we've been talking back and forth ever since. He brought me on. Was it last year? Was it last year or the year before? To do the Tiny Whoop and 3-inch section of his website, and that was super fun. We had me, him, and 2 developers had weekly phone calls, and we would hang out for an hour and talk shop, and then crack jokes. And I look back on that very fondly. That was really, really, really fun to get to hang out with him, and Eirik and the other developer whose name is escaping me right now, every single week. That was super fun, and we were working on something really, really cool, in with FPV Know-It-All, and also and FPV Search. Eirik was working on FPV Search too. That was super fun. Midnight Jesus, Flycadelic, Kelvin, Juice. I lost my place. If I didn't read your name, you'll just have to come back to the next live stream on, what's today, Monday? On Wednesday at 10 o'clock, Whoop Wednesday. And if you type something in the chat early enough, I'll give you a little shout out, because I appreciate you coming. In the chat, if you want to talk directly to me, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. You can also do a super chat if you want to support the insanity that is being a full-time FPV donkey. You don't have to. Just hanging out helps a little bit with the algorithm. If you want to help a little bit more, click the little thumbs up. The other way to help for free is to go over to CiottiFPV.com and use some of my affiliate links. One of I know it's impossible to remember to use affiliate links every time you place an order because they get wiped out as soon as you check out. Here's the trick. Replace all your bookmarks with people's affiliate links, right? If not mine, then someone else's. But you shouldn't have any bookmarks that aren't an affiliate link. Almost every single website that sells stuff has an affiliate program. And so support people that make the stuff that you watch for free by using affiliate links all the time. Once you click an affiliate link, it drops that creator's code into your shopping cart, and it stays there for a week or two. And so yeah, if you will never have to remember to use an affiliate link again if you change your bookmarks. If you're like me and you don't really use bookmarks, when I go to Amazon, I just type AMA for Amazon and it automatically fills the rest in. Right now, when you type these different websites in, BET for Beta FPV, FPV for FPV Cycle, HIS for Hazingi, it's probably going to suggest whatever.com, getfpv.com, newbiedrone.com. What you can do is remove your suggestion. If you're on Chrome, off on the right here is a little X. And then when you hover over it, it says remove suggestion. So remove your current, just Amazon.com suggestion, right? And then click someone's Amazon affiliate link a couple times in a row. And that tells your browser, oh, look, he really likes this specific link. And then moving forward, when you type AMA for Amazon, it'll suggest, if it's my affiliate link, it'll suggest, like you see here, what I call the nut grabber, a very valuable little tool. And then just by doing that, you've dumped someone's affiliate link into your shopping cart. If you happen to check out, you're good to go. And you support someone that's making stuff here on YouTube that you watch for free. And then they can make more stuff for you to watch and better stuff. You know, the bigger we grow this, the more stuff I can test, the more stuff I can tell you to not buy because it sucks and catches on fire. So do it, yo. I have affiliate links to Amazon, GetFPV, Race Day Quads, Pyrodrone, sort of Pyrodrone. The Pyrodrone affiliate link is like if you go on there and you set an account up, I get some Pyrodrone points. So if you don't have an account set up on Pyrodrone, you can just hit my affiliate link for them and really quickly dump like your email address and make a password and your address or whatever in there, and that'll count towards it. You don't actually, they don't have a normal affiliate program. GetFPV, Pyrodrone, Race Day Quads, Newbie Drone, Weebly FPV, Beta FPV, FPV Cycle, Hazingi, Oh My God, Brain 3, HD0, Flywoo, Emax, Banggood, Camera Buddy, AliExpress. Patreon definitely helps me out the most, and you get the most benefits. There's a YouTube playlist that's unlisted with all kinds of weird stuff. Patreon only live streams, sketchy flying that's I don't necessarily want to be public, not like illegal stuff, but like just stuff that's kind of on that border. It's the most fun stuff to watch, to be honest. But access to a couple different Facebook groups, full Discord access, and the undying love of the gangliest motherfucker in FPV. Etsy has some really fun stuff on there. If you're going to buy something, do me a favor and buy a sticker along with it. Show your love, take a picture of the sticker, tag me in it on Instagram, and I'll tag you, and then lots of other people will find you, and you'll feel better about your life because you'll have more followers, and that's how it works. Fiverr, you can work one-on-one with me. I've been doing this for over 8 years. If you want a lot of info really fast, this is how you do it, and the rates are super reasonable. Teespring's got some fun shirts and other random apparel, like these awesome tote bags that say kill all, here's one. These tote bags that say kill all carbon on them in the Hoonigan font for all you car nuts, and then it's got my name on the other side. These tote bags are like my favorite way to guerrilla fly. They're the perfect size for your transmitter in like maybe a little bag or something like this. And then a quad or two, your goggles. I put the goggles in this handy dandy little, this is a photography thing, but it's got like Velcro here. And then it just folds up like a little burrito. And then so you put your goggles in here and they're protected. And a couple of batteries and a quad. You walk around with this, nobody's gonna, like, it's a fucking tote bag, you know? If you really want to be super incognito, put it up over your shoulder like a true metrosexual. And, like, nobody's ever gonna think that you're a dirty drone pilot. And it's got just enough space, you can, if you fly in the grass, you can put it flat on the grass and put your shit on top in case the grass is wet or whatever. Really, really nice. And just, like, ultra, ultra, ultra incognito. And who doesn't want... What car nerd does not want this that says kill all carbon? Come on now. Shout out to CMYK-FPV for doing an awesome job on that, and much of, almost all of my other graphic design. If you need graphic design, you go to anybody other than CMYK. I will hunt you down and attack you physically with much violence. PayPal if you want to support me directly, but you know that super chats get 30% taken by the evil Google Nazis. That's how you support me, friends. You've been doing an awesome job. Thank you for allowing me to do this full time. Let's keep it going. What do you say? 2-inch tiny whoops. Do they suck? No. Is this the way? No. But I was pleasantly surprised flying this around today. I can't necessarily say that it does anything better than... So this is, for anybody that's just coming here the first time, this is a Mobula 7 04, Happy Model Mobula 7 04. This is the original frame and motor. Well, not really the same motors, but this is the same frame, very similar motors and props that it comes with. The past, like, 4 or 5 live streams have been dedicated to it in this frame. Long and short, it flies awesome. I'm shocked that the 1102 10,000 kV motors that it comes with fly as good as they do. I'd thought that they were going to be a little too low of a kV, but with these HQ ultralight 45mm triblades, it actually makes a really good amount of power. I pushed the tune up just a little bit, but not much. It is damn good. Damn good. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just leaving it alone and flying it. You're going to have a really good time. Although I don't even think it's available quite yet, but it will be soon. A lot of what I do is test stuff to try to find the absolute best possible setup. In most cases for me, because that's kind of that's the only reason to modify stuff, right? That's the only reason to custom build stuff, is that you're trying to find the perfect propeller, motor, frame, electronics, camera, controller link setup for you, right? If you don't care about that, just buy a bind and fly, and it's going to be pretty damn good. But again, you know, each one of us each one of us flies differently, and so there is a perfect setup for each one of us. We all fly in different locations. The front of your house is different than the front of Maggie's house here. And so you might want a rig with a little bit more power or a little bit less power, a rig that's a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier. And so I do a lot of testing to try to figure that stuff out so that I can let you know, to help you build the perfect rig for your needs. But in a selfish way, I'm doing it to find the best setup for me. Because I'm a pretty decent pilot, but I'm not the best pilot in the world. I'm 43 years old. My reflexes are not getting better. And so I've found over the years that dialing the build in helps me. It helps me fly better, right? A better tool, up to a certain point, a better tool will make you a better artist. Whatever. Put whatever word you want there, but it does make a difference. In fairness, just flying a lot is the most valuable thing. If you want your flight footage to look better, if you want to fly better, stick time is the answer, hands down. Putting a lot of time into testing stuff and obsessing over the technical side and the specific combination of parts, it's not a zero-sum game. It definitely makes a difference. But the amount of time that it takes you to and the time and money that it takes you to dial this in perfectly for you, you will only get a little bit better as a pilot in that process. Just pouring time into flying is going to make a much bigger difference. The engineering side, dialing these things in, is very fun. And if that's fun for you, that's okay. We all have our list of priorities, right? For me, probably about 7 years ago, I decided that the top of my priorities was going to be flying as good as I possibly could. I really fell in love with that part of FPV more than anything else. And it's always been up there. It fluctuates a little bit, but it's always towards the top of the list. And so I spend as much time as I can flying. Now that this is my full-time job, that I'm a little bit more limited than when I had a standard sort of day job where I made a ton of money. But that's okay. I love all the other things involved with being a full-time FPV donkey. Getting to hang out with you guys and just, yeah, everything is doing this full-time is the most difficult thing I've ever done. I will admit that for sure. But I still love it. And so it's okay that I don't get to fly as much as I used to. During the summer, I get to fly a good amount when I do professional work. Music videos, short films, whatever I can get my hands on. And so, yeah, I get plenty of flying in, and I continue to improve. One of the things that, not unbelievably, but like I didn't expect this, one of the things that's improved my piloting skills the most has been flying tiny whoops over the past few years. Now that tiny whoops have a good enough power to weight ratio where you can do all of the same three-dimensional flying that you do outside, you can put a shitload of stick time in all the time, every single day, regardless of the weather, and it makes a huge difference. Having to drive a half an hour to a spot dodge pedestrians, people walking their dogs, cars, God knows what else, people calling the cops on you, and then drive a half an hour home, you don't get nearly as much stick time in that cycle, which is admittedly very fun, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But like in terms of getting stick time in, doing it at home, whenever you want, whenever is most convenient, 2 a.m., whatever, that if you want to get good at flying, that's one of the best things that you can do. You're going to have to build an angry tiny whoop to do that, but there's actually bind flies for like $100 nowadays. The Beta FPV Air 65, the Mobula 6 2024, those have plenty of power to weight ratio to do all the things. It's also incredibly difficult to fly inside the house, to fly like hardcore freestyle inside the house. And so that's going to challenge the shit out of you. If you give up on things easily, be careful, because it's going to be a massive challenge. You have to be kind of stubborn. If you're in FPV for more than a couple months, you're probably pretty fucking stubborn. So you should be okay. But fair warning, flying in the house is outrageously difficult. Way more difficult than flying outside. But if you're trying to get good, doing something that's really difficult is one of the best ways to do that. It's going to push you way beyond your limits, and then you're going to have to push back against that. So, yeah, it's made me, tiny whooping has made me so much of a better pilot. When I fly outside, I only fly outside. I mean, I tiny whoop out in front of the house, right? But like, I only fly away from this building, maybe a couple times a month. But like every single time I do, I'm just like, okay, I'm better than last time. And that's that. After you've spent a few years really concentrating on getting good in FPV, you don't get significantly better every time you go out and fly. For a while, for a couple years, you get a lot better every single time you fly. Maybe not every single time, but like you're like on this trajectory for a long time. The better you get, the more it does this. And eventually it's going to damn near plateau. And like, you'll fly every couple days for an entire month. And then you'll look back at your flight footage from a month ago and you're like, was I better then? And so that gets a little frustrating after a while. I have not had that experience in years, since I've been flying a lot of tiny whoop, because stick time is stick time. And you could make a pretty decent argument that flying tiny whoops is better stick time spent stick time than the simulator. You could absolutely argue on the other side of that, because the simulator will allow, like Velocidrone, for example, is my favorite. That allows you to fly a 5-inch rig in like a big location, but it's still a sim. Right? Flying tiny whoop is flying in the real world with some consequences, right? Not major consequences. They're hilariously durable, but they do cost something. And so you do have a little bit of anxiety around, like, don't go full throttle into the dog bowl, because that's going to cost you $100, right? And so you have to deal with that anxiety, which is super useful, and you get none of that with the simulator. That's one of the biggest problems with the sim, is that there's nothing on the line. And so there's zero anxiety. You're just in there wiggling the sticks, and like, you can do all kinds of shit in the simulator that you've tried for real, and you're like, wow, I can't even come close to doing this. And it's also like actual real life physics, right? Like, yes, Velocidrone physics are pretty damn good, but they're physics dialed in for racing, not freestyle. And there is a difference. For sure there's a difference. So you could make like I said, you could make a pretty decent argument for tiny whooping sort of being the best way to get good. But like I said, you could argue hard on the other side of that. This is the $100 Quicksilver sweatshirt that I got for $15. I was telling you guys about on the live stream the other day from the consignment store. It's so nice. When I do most of my clothes shopping at surf shops like once or twice a year when I actually get to the beach. And like, I'll always see sweatshirts like this from Quicksilver and Rip Curl and all the other surf brands. and I'll always like look at them like, oh my god, it's so nice, you know, like the material's nicer and like everything is sewn up really nice, and I'm like, oh man, this is so nice. And then inevitably, at this point, I just look at them and I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna buy this because I know it's gonna say $100 on the fucking price tag. But inevitably, I'll then look at the price tag and it'll be like $80, $90, $100. Like, you know, that's insane. I think this is like the first time I've ever actually been able to get one because it was $15, and that's about what I'm willing to spend on a sweatshirt. So yeah. A couple other folks in the chat the other day when we were talking about it were like, hell yeah, consignment stores are the jam. I was like, oh, cool. Thought I was the only one. There are usually... So, the consignment store is called Uptown Cheapskate. So, like, when I say consignment stores, I don't necessarily mean Goodwill. There's nothing wrong with Goodwill. Goodwill is where you get the crazy deals, but, like, the selection at Goodwill is usually kind of rough. And so, like, you'll have to spend, like, an hour and a half getting through all of the shit in Goodwill to find something decent, if anything. There are usually somewhere around you it'll be called consignment store. It won't be called Goodwill, right? And there'll be like more upmarket sort of consignment stores. For me, those are the places to go. You'll pay $15 instead of $5 for a sweatshirt, but it'll be $100 sweatshirt, and you'll spend 30 minutes there. When I lived in Charleston, this is the best example of this. When I lived in Charleston, there was a male-only consignment store called Warren, and they sold only high-end stuff. And they were like more expensive. But that was really cool. I missed that place. I wouldn't find much there. It was a lot of like really, really, really... It would be like $1,000 suit jackets for like $100 or $200, which, you know, I have no interest in. But every once in a while, I'd get some really, really, really nice stuff there. So yeah, look for consignment stores. Go into maps and just type in like consignment stores, and that'll probably find one around you, and start shopping there and buy used stuff that for cheap, that is not new stuff that, you know, ruins the planet that we're on here. Save money and save the earth. Mick Mucus tagged me in the chat and said, I just got 2-inch Lightning V2. It does not suck on 2S 380 mAh, but it's a little heavy on 550s. Thanks for the idea of flying 2S. I'm loving it. 2-inch Lightning V2. What the hell's that? 2-inch Lightning V2. 2-inch Lightning V2. What is that? Oh, that little thing with the crazy metal canopy thing. I hate that metal canopy, but I think that they got a really good motor prop all-up weight combo on this, which is why it flies so good. There it is, Lightning 2. Yeah. Yeah, that's an absolutely ridiculous canopy design, but, you know, getting the powertrain correct is, you're like 90% of the way there. And if you just screw up the last 10%, it's a rig that's going to be better than pretty much anything else. Greg says, howdy gangly gang. Greg Torres says, what soldering iron do you recommend? I was looking at the Pine Sill or iFixit kit. My Milwaukee one is huge. Joshua's website, FPV Know-It-All, has a tools section. Oh, come on now. His site didn't used to be this slow. Go on to Joshua's website. There's like a tools or hardware section. There's a Hacko in there that's really good. I have a Weller 1010, I think it is. Let me see. It says it on the back. Or no, it says it on the bottom, I guess. Yeah, 1010. I have a Weller 1010, but it's not... It's about the same... It's about the same quality as the Hacko, but it's more expensive. But like the Weller Blue is super cool. And if I'm completely honest, I really wanted this soldering iron because my father was an electrical technician for many years. And he always had a Weller. And I grew up with amazing music, but I also grew up with this soundtrack right here. Ready? I grew up with this soundtrack in my life. This sound. And that is the very specific sound of a Weller, of that little Weller coil stand. And so, yeah, I really, really, really wanted a Weller soldering iron because it's just, you know, makes me think of my dad. And he's awesome. He's been on the stream a couple times too, and chat absolutely loves him. They're probably typing right now that David Ciotti is the Chad of all Chads. Greg Torres, no, we got that. 661FPV says, finally got a Mobula 8, already changed props. Did you try it stock? I did. Oh, wait, no, Mobula 8. No, this is not a Mobula 8. So this is a Mobula 704 swapped into a... This is very similar to a Mobula 8. Let me just say that. Probably damn near identical. But what this actually is a Mobula 704 camera, canopy, AIO, ORT micro V antenna, the special super custom ones that are on my Etsy store. They're sold out right now. I'm waiting for ORT to get back to me. I've got a big ass order in for them, but I actually haven't heard from him in a few days, probably on vacation or something. But ORT micro V antenna, the extra short one with the extra shrink wrap that they make for me. This is an hglrc Spectre frame. I'm not sure that that's the name of this frame, but it's the only 2-inch prop hglrc tiny whoop frame. And then these are Happy Model 1103 11,000 kV motors. And at the moment, I'm not totally thrilled with these props, but the props that I'm running right now and that you were seeing in the flight footage are the GemFan Hurricane 2015. Is that right? 2015? Yep, 2015 2-inch bi-blades. We're going to really dive into 2-inch tiny whoops when I get caught up on chat here tonight. We're going to weigh these props. We're going to weigh some of the other props that are available. Unfortunately, my Power Drone order did not get here yet. I've got some more props in that order. We're going to jump onto a couple of different websites to look at what props are available, what 2-inch props are available. I'm actually doing that right now to remind myself. I'm just opening up a few extra tabs for Race Day Quads, Get FPV, Power Drone, Newbie Drone. Let's also do Tiny Whoop, and let's also do We Bleed. So we'll look at all the big spots where we might be able to find some 2-inch props. There are lots and lots and lots of 2-inch props. I have a bag of probably 30 different, and I'm not exaggerating that, 30 different 2-inch props that have been manufactured and sold over the last, 8 years. Most of those props are either too heavy or too pitchy, or they have too many blades, or they're out of balance for a 2-inch tiny whoop. A lot of the 2-inch props that are out there are for open ducted, non-ducted 2-inch builds, like that Lightning 2-inch that we were looking at a minute ago, which are on bigger, more powerful motors. 1103 is bordering on the smallest motor size that I would want to run on a 2-inch rig. I am going to try 1003s. I have a set of those here and another one of these hglrc frames. So we'll see. But I was really, really happy with the performance of this on these 1103s. And 1103 was a motor size that I found 7 or 8 years ago that worked really well on 2-inch props, and I've kind of never forgotten that. Back then, I didn't realize nobody really knew the little magical Goldilocks zone of like 3-to-1 / 4-to-1 ratio of motor width to motor height. It's kind of funny. Like, I actually find it really funny that over the years and years and years of testing hundreds of different things, that, like, when I look back at it, In terms of the motor sizes that have performed best and I've liked the most, they're all 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, and then with like heavy lift kind of stuff like CineApe, 5-to-1 or 6-to-1. I find that to be absolutely hysterical. Like, bench testing is great, don't get me wrong, and like data is super important, but it's incredible how much we've learned from just flying stuff and tuning stuff and comparing stuff and just using, like, you know, basically bro science, right, to sort of figure that stuff out. It's wild how close we've gotten to what the data sort of suggests. Huge shout out to Joshua and Chris Rosser and Mark Spatz and Ryan Harris and lots of other people I'm forgetting for giving us actual data to dial this stuff in. But yeah, I just find it hysterical how how close we got to the perfect setup according to the data in terms of like response time and power to weight ratio and all that shit, just by doing the thing that we love most and flying lots of different stuff. Notice says, what's up? How about a monkey mount rant for the kids? I'll give you a quick rant. TBS should be ashamed of themselves for just completely ignoring the standardization, the slight bit of standardization that we've got in FPV of our mounting patterns being 16 by 16, very uncommon, but technically it's still a mounting pattern, 20 by 20, 25.5 by 25.5, and 30 by 30. For those that weren't on Joshua's stream, and we've talked about this a bunch of times, but TBS is doing this new mounting pattern for ESCs that is just, it's sure. If you were to now go back in time and pick a mounting pattern that would be better for the way that 4-in-1 ESCs are designed, you could maybe say that their monkey mount, or whatever the hell it's called, is a better idea. But we don't have time machines, and every single frame and every single person in FPV is set up for 20 by 20 and 30 by 30 and 25.5 by 25.5. And so to just ignore all that and be like, no, this is better, feels an awful lot like they're just kind of trying to lock you into their stuff, right? Which we run into a lot in FPV, and a lot of people talk a lot of shit about. But then when it's interesting that when TBS then does it, a lot of those people are just like, no, man, it's better. Like, well, that seems like a little bit of a double standard. So there you go. There's a rant for you. It's just dumb. It's just stupid. It's like, no, don't do that. Don't make some stupid mounting pattern. Make it 30 by 30. Make it 25 by 25. Make it 20 by 20. Stop it. Stop making us run a fucking adapter to mount your stupid mounting pattern thing. What, are you insane? Not to mention that, like, that's a great way to turn off lots of people and, like, not sell something, right? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why? I don't care if it's better. Everybody else is making 30 by 30 and 20 by 20 work. Don't make me run an adapter. We're trying to make shit that's lighter and that's less complex, not more. Come on. B-Bird says, would a 2S rig at max throttle produce double the RPM a 1S rig would on the same motors? If you were flying it in a vacuum, yes. If you were flying it, and it wouldn't really be flying in a vacuum, it would just be cranking the motors up because it wouldn't have any air to push. If you're flying it not in a vacuum, then no, because there's air, and it's got to put, the propellers have to push against that air, and that air slows things down. So with the props off, yes. With the props on, no, because the 2S rig is going to try to produce double the RPMs, but the wind is going to slow it down quite a bit. 661 says, about what lipos you running on the Mobula 8? I run 380 mAh HVGNB yellow. I think you want the lightest lipo possible for durability, reduce weight during crash, better flight performance. I have run GNB 300s, Talon 300, Talon 350. You can't get these anymore. Talon is a brand from HeliDirect, and unfortunately HeliDirect went away a number of years ago. Emax, which I think is a GNB 350, Flywoo 420, Talon 450, Thi2 450, and I bought a Dogcom 450, but it's too fat and it doesn't fit in the mount, which is super annoying. But yeah, I've run all those batteries. The 300s fly the best, but because they're the lightest, but on the 2-inch setup with the bigger 1103 motors, it sags those 300s pretty bad. The 350 is a little bit better, but the Flywoo 420s are where things really get good. They do feel a little bit heavier, but not nearly as heavy as the Thi2 450 or the Talon 450. Ideally, for all of these 2S rigs, we want to be using BT 3.0. It is significantly lighter than XT30 when you factor in the fact that these XT30 batteries also have this balance lead on them. And so I believe TinyWhoop is back. So TinyWhoop has 2S BT 3.0 batteries that are folded cell that perform really well. They've got 300s and they've got 450s. I believe the 450s just went back in stock, but the 300s are not in stock yet. Those are the batteries to run for sure. On a 2-inch setup, the 450 is probably going to be a better bet. The 300 is probably just a little too small for this amount of power that you're asking from the battery, and it's going to sag it pretty hard. That being said, I don't really think there's a reason to build these in 2-inch. What I was really happy about is that there's no duct in view. The field of view of the 04 Lite camera is so narrow that even with these giant 2-inch ducts, they're not in the bottom of the video, which is awesome. And that's why I've stayed away from 2-inch whoops in the past, because with any other camera with like a proper nice wide field of view like we like from FPV cameras, there is like acres of duct in view. And I just personally don't like that. There's actually also a propeller in view, which I really don't like. I find that to be super distracting. So for this specific setup with DJI 04, here's what I can say. If you want sort of like the ultimate lightweight, kind of cinematic, but also durable 04 Lite TinyWhoop setup, this might be it. With the 2-inch propellers and the bigger motors, it's going to make more thrust, and that's going to allow it to carry a bigger battery. You could probably haul around, and you know what? I didn't do this today. I will tomorrow. Newbie Drone sent me a 2S 850 with the BLV5, and that thing carried this around without much of a problem, and that's on 0804 motors. These 1103s should do a significantly better job than the 0804s. 804 motor, 804 to 1 ratio, that's not good. You do not want motors that are 2 to 1 ratio. You want minimum 3 to 1. The wider a motor is, the cooler it is. The wider the motor it is, the wider the motor is, the more of that motor is in the airflow of the propeller. A 2 to 1 ratio motor is going to get really hot, and motors hate getting really hot. They make less power and they become way less efficient. And so an 1103 should really outperform those 804s and move this battery around with no problem. For like hardcore freestyle, this ain't it. This is a cinematic kind of setup for this thing. But I think that's what this is for. I think that's really the main reason to do this build. We'll talk more about it while I play that flight footage again in a little bit here. But I think that's kind of like the reason, sort of the only reason to do a 2-inch 04 build like this, is that you want something that you can strap a big old battery to and get like 5 or 6 minutes of runtime, maybe, I'll let you know, with the quality coming out of the 04 Lite. And like that, nothing's wrong with that. I really wanted to go to this march on the Capitol building today and bring this to get some footage of it, but I had a rough night last night and I just could not get my ass out of bed this morning. In that scenario, this might have been perfect because we're getting 4K coming out of it. It's a little kid's toy, right? Like, nobody's gonna get aggressive about this. You know, there's a million cops at the Capitol building. Like, what's the worst they're gonna do? Tell me to stop flying it? They're not gonna put me in cuffs, right? They're not gonna make a big deal out of it. Like, and if you go bigger than this, right? If you go to like the Femto style of rig, or like the Avata, or even like the Neo, they're gonna get so loud. They're gonna get so they look like something totally different. They don't look like something that you bought at a kiosk at the mall for your kid, and you're just screwing around, right? And there's a big difference there. Also, this is something that you can crash. Those other rigs are cinematic specific rigs. You cannot crash those hard. You can bash the shit out of this thing. And so this is actually I'm way more interested in this than I thought that I would be. But it's because of the 04 Lite. I'm glad that I've stayed away, and I had good reason to stay away from 2-inch tiny whoops previously. But now that we've got a proper camera on here that can get proper 4K cinematic-ish footage, I think this actually, for some people, maybe makes sense. And I actually might be one of those people, because being able to take this to like weird shit and have it still be a toy and get like really interesting footage with something that, you know, you can land on your transmitter and like is obviously unbelievably safe, but also, again, looks like a toy, right? Like, and also, you start doing super sketchy shit with this, and you get a phone call from the FAA, and it's like, well, yeah, bro, that was a tiny whoop. It's going to be a very different phone call than if you're flying a 2.5-inch or a 3-inch CineWhoop dragging a GoPro around, right? It's just like, yo, yeah, that's a freaking little tiny whoop, bro. It weighs 80 grams. I don't know how that conversation would go. I don't know if they would like laugh about it and be like, okay, yeah, you're totally fine. Or if it would be like, yeah, I have a feeling the conversation would actually be like, you know, great that it's a tiny whoop, but the rules are the rules. There's not a rule saying that tiny whoops you're allowed to fly over people super sketchy in, you know, no-fly zones or whatever. But yeah, the FAA doesn't just randomly call you. Someone has to report you to them and for them to find out about it. And so flying something like this around, chances are you're not going to get reported, right? Because it's just a silly little kid's toy. That's kind of the point that I'm sort of driving at. But again, like absolute worst case scenario, yeah. So this is pretty cool. I was pleasantly surprised flying this. I wish I could have flown it a little bit earlier in the day, but you know, is what it is. I am almost an hour behind in chat, so let me pause talking about this. We'll dive into chat. I'll get as caught up as I possibly can, and then we're going to start weighing some props. We're going to talk about the powertrain and stuff like that. I'll put the flight footage back on, and yeah, be a good stream for tonight. Trying to figure out where I was in the chat. Speaking of, RaiseFPV says, hey bro, what's up? Omega Xenon says, just got done with my 6 packs a day. Been taking the time to watch your Throttle Expo video. I'm slowly learning to rip balls in my office and apartment. Very cool. To find my Throttle Expo video, which is one of the main keys to being able to fly inside and not just crash constantly, you're going to go to my channel here, and here's a little secret tip. There's a little magnifying glass on all YouTube channels. You click that magnifying glass and you will search on just that channel. So search for Throttle Expo, and the top 2 results here, Throttle Expo, the throttle management cheat code, and Midpoint Monday, dialing in Throttle Expo, the secret for throttle control. There's like 40-minute sections of these 2 live streams that really dive into Throttle Expo. It's not easy. You have to really understand it, and you have to experiment with it a little bit. But if you take the time, it will totally change your ability to fly not just inside, but low to the ground. Very, very confidently low to the ground. It is unbelievable what it does when it is set perfectly. That is the problem, though, is that it has to be set perfectly. If it's not set perfectly, it will actually make the situation worse. So if you're not willing to watch me talk about it for 40 to 50 minutes and then experiment it with a little bit, don't bother. Just don't use it. For most people, that's kind of the deal. Most people will say, like, no, Throttle Expo is bad. I tried it and it was terrible. Those are people that either don't have the ability to understand it, or they don't have the time, or they don't care to actually understand it. Those of us who are willing to put in a little bit of work, spend maybe an hour, maybe 2 total between learning from me and then experimenting with it, we're going to fly better. Sorry, it's just the truth. We are using the technology in beta flight to help us fly better. And what we're literally doing is we are allowing ourselves to move the throttle more in the exact area where the thing cruises, so that we can more easily manage the throttle bounce. I can always tell a pilot within like seconds that understands Throttle Expo and is using Throttle Expo versus the ones that aren't. The ones that aren't are the pilots that bounce elevation constantly. They're just always all over the place. They can never lock down and get that nice professional, like locked in elevation. So, I mean, if you don't care about like your flight footage looking really good and you're just flying for fun, maybe it doesn't matter. But even if you think you're that person, I'll bet you that if you spend a little bit of time with this and all of a sudden you're able to like slam down and keep your elevation dead ass level on the ground, I bet you're going to be like, oh, that feels good, bro. Because it does. It looks good. It feels good. You're like, yeah, man, I'm a fucking baller. So try it. What else are you going to do? Just fly more? Bounce all over the place some more? Come on. Nobody wants to watch that. Dronesen says, hello, friends. SOS Death Pilot says, yeah, my order was placed on January 20th. What order is that? Craig says, found someone on J. Bardwell. What's that mean? Craig also says, oops, found a JB Discord user who is printing Big McStinky mounts for CO3. That's pretty cool. I don't think there's a McStinky specifically for CO3s. ShootFPV says, does the 04 have a built-in filter? It does not. None of them do. For some reason, I thought it did. It does some color shit, I think. Pretty much all digital cameras will have, it's sort of built in. Sometimes it's painted on, sometimes it's glued on. Pretty much all digital cameras, digital image sensors are, they react to infrared light, which you don't necessarily want. So they will put an IR filter either on the back of the glass, on the back of the lens, or sometimes they'll put it on top of the sensor itself. So if that's what you're talking about, then yes, the 04, as well as every single other digital camera, have IR filters. I spent much of my 20s and some of my 30s shooting still photography, and in going all the way down the rabbit hole with still photography, there's actually some really fun stuff that you can do by removing that IR filter. You wouldn't necessarily want to do it with video, but for still images, like infrared light, it kind of bounces differently and refracts differently. Unfortunately, when you do this, you're now limited to black and white photography because the IR filter is kind of pink. And so when you remove the IR filter, shooting in color goes out the window because all the colors change and it's just a mess. So you're forced to then shoot black and white. But it's kind of interesting. Trees look otherworldly without IR filters. It's kind of slick. But yeah, nobody really does it with video. Although I think Didn't they do it in the newest Dune? I still haven't seen... I've been meaning to watch the newest Dune 2. Dune 2 IR scene. Let me see if Google will find it. Yeah, they did. They did. The insane infrared cameras of Dune Part 2. Yeah, so this scene in Dune 2 is filmed with infrared cameras, and the reason why it looks so weird is that they're exposing for that infrared light rather than blocking it, which is what everything you've ever seen has done. I've been waiting to watch Dune 2 because the Dune movies, for whatever reason, Maggie's 14-year-old Florence, who I just absolutely love to death, will actually watch those movies with me. So I've been waiting to watch with her, and I think Maggie might actually even watch it, which is awesome. Trying to find something that we will all watch and actually be interested in is sometimes a little bit of a challenge. Usually either I you know, with the film background that I've got, when something goes on, a TV show or a movie, like I'm in, I'm all the way in. But Florence and Maggie, a lot of times, like half an hour in, they'll be on their phones and they're just kind of like checked out. So finding something that everybody's interested in so that we can all like actually engage is takes a little bit of effort, but it's worth it. It's worth it, man. All the best things in life take a little bit of effort, you know? Metadertson says, yeah, that finger control thing on the goggles too is so damn annoying. Yeah, it's just, I don't get it. Like, every time I want to push forward, I push up. Every time I want to push up, I push to the side. I can't, and like, I feel like the more I use it, the worse I'm getting at it. It's I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I'm sure it's just me. Although apparently it's not just me. YouTube did the thing and scrolled me to the bottom. I'm scrolling back up to find my place. Mick Bucas says, yes, I am Dub L Deuce. Awesome, I thought so. Stamps.com. What's the other website? No. No, not... Patreon. Jesus Christ. Alley Cat says, hey. Kevin Sumner says, I just got back from flying times in St. Augustine. Tired, but it was a pretty good weekend. Very cool. I saw some pictures. I was very jealous of that. There you are, Mick. And there's your address. Stamps.com. Come on, work, bro. McBucas says, got my PayPal tied to my record label. Got it. That's why. Mina FPV says something that I refuse to say. Kevin Sumner, it's not bad. It's just the thing that everybody says 10,000 times a minute on YouTube and on Instagram and just in the world at this point. And I get very tired of those things very quickly. Kevin Sumner says, are you going to Sloss Derby in Birmingham in April? I would love to. April is a super busy month for me, though. It's my birthday, and then Maggie and I are going to Long Beach, California for a conference that she's speaking at. And there's something else going on. So, yeah, there's a good chance that I won't be able to make it, but I'm going to try. I know it's the second to last weekend of April. I shall try my best. Level 1 says, paraphrasing, big butts are to rappers as high KV motors are to CiottiFPV. Indeed they are. But, like, I like big butts too. Anybody that... I'm not going to say that. But Richardson says, Iric is a true G. One time at a race in Portland, he bought everyone pizza with his Bardwell money. That's awesome. Yeah, Iric is an amazing guy. An amazing human being. Joe says, thanks for streaming tonight. I lost my grandma last night. I am so sorry, brother. That is super, super, super hard. But I'm happy that I can be a friendly, familiar voice, face, whatever. You'll get through it, brother. You absolutely will. The really shitty memories will fade. That is what our brains do. And all of the beautiful memories will remain. One of the most evil things about depression is that it makes significant chunks of your life very negative, and then your brain, by design, deletes those memories. And so those of us with depression, we lose chunks of our memory, which is a good thing because we are miserable in those times. But like, there are things that happen during those times in our lives that we would rather remember. Our brains are designed to scrub the bad memories, and so grieve your ass off, right? Don't bury this shit. It's super important for men to allow themselves to actually experience emotions, because if you bury them, they will manifest in things like cancer and heart disease and other stuff that'll wreck your life. So yeah, feel that shit, man. Feel the hurt. It's the worse it hurts, the more important that person was, and the more awesome that person was. I lost a friend of mine in November, a couple weeks after the election, to suicide, and it hurt like hell. Maggie and I were just destroyed by it. But all of the awesome memories of Wilder are what remains. And yeah, so that's life. But make sure that you don't bury it, brother. Make sure that you just feel this shit. Take a day off work, take 2 days off work, whatever. The right people will totally understand. And you can also lean on people, it's, we are allowed to be human beings, even though society and the culture of my generation, but folks younger than me's generation as well, has told us that that's not okay. That's bullshit, and that's absolute nonsense. And anybody that still believes in that, like, they're the problem, not us. Sorry. That's just the truth. So, you're good, brother. If you need anything, on my Discord, there is an FPV therapy text channel. I've also got linked on CiottiFPV.com. Scroll all the way down. There's a link to an FPV therapy Facebook group. Lots of super brave people talking about serious shit that causes really negative emotions in there. And sometimes it helps to see that there's others that are hurting, and that's okay. And if you need anything, there's tons of us that are here for you. So, Cole Powers says, "Rest in peace, Ken Block." I've lost a lot of amazing people in the last couple of years. That's something that I've heard people talk about. One of the worst things about getting older is that seems to happen more and more. It's hard. I guess as you get older, you meet more and more people become important to you, and those people are getting older as well, right? So it's kind of a natural thing. But yeah, I've heard lots of people mention that one of the hardest things about aging is just losing more and more people. You lose more people every year. Curtis Hayes says, everyone that flies FPV without a ham radio license is technically flying illegally. Yep, that's true. And we all have never flown by ourselves without an official observer. Well, I always have an official observer. I actually almost always do. When you fly on set, there's always PAs floating around, and there's almost always someone, like, because, normies don't see drones a lot, and what we do with drones on film sets or music video sets or whatever is usually pretty impressive. So we usually have quite a few visual observers. Curtis Hayes says, I loved my 2S Nano Baby HD0 until I forgot there was a big snow berm I couldn't fly behind and lost it somewhere near a ski area. Ugh, that sucks, dude. Losing an entire rig is something that I did not experience for like 6 years in FPV, and like everybody around me is losing full builds and talking about how much it sucks, and I'm just like, I almost lost one at one point. And I felt it. I was like, wow, that really sucks. But then I did manage to get it back. And then finally, a couple of years ago in Charleston, I put one into the harbor, and it's just gone forever. It's in the pluff mud, and that fucking hurt. But what was interesting was, at that time in my life, I'd just gone through my divorce with someone I'd been with for 15 years. I'd found an incredible talk therapist, and I was in this like season of my life where basically I was going to either sink or swim. I was either going to not make it through it, or I was going to come out absolutely swinging for the fences. And luckily I came out swinging for the fences, and I was in like this amazingly positive point in my life. I think I had just met Maggie, and I was just absolutely on top of the world. And so for that to happen when I was in that kind of a place, I was pretty lucky, because it don't get me wrong, it hurt losing $700-800, and it was a really fresh build. It was a cinematic build, and it was just like beautiful and clean, and like so like it hurt, but at the same time I was just like, you know what? A, I had this shit coming, and B, like there are way worse things in life than this, and like this is the game. You know, you want to fly 6 inches off the water to get some unbelievable footage at sunset with a fishing boat right in front of you, weaving in and out of the pluff mud in Charleston. Well, you know what? If you drop it down a little bit too low and put a bunch of dirt between you and that's on you, brother. Midnight Jesus says, here, you're 100% on point. I've only been flying since September, and I'm very stubborn. I'll be flying forever. Love it, brother. Keep going. SOS Death Pilot says, but can I run the 04 light on the drones? You just said without the new 3-in-1. I need a little bit more to go off than that. What are the drones? What do you mean by the drones? Lewis says, what's your recommended 65mm indoor build? The easy button is the Beta FPV Air 65 Race, or if you don't want to do any upgrades and you want to just buy something and fly it, it's that rig. At some point, if they come out with the Air 65 Champion, it's that. If you want to upgrade down the road, it's the Mobula 6 2024. If you want to do a totally custom build from scratch, it's the Newbie Drone Cockroach V3 frame. Weebleed sells the Happy Model 2G4 AIO, the ORT Micro V antenna from my Etsy. Motors are a mixed bag, but the easy button for motors is going to be either the Tiny Whoop 0702 36,000 kV Fireflies or the Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors. If you're flying it in a really small space, Tiny Whoop 0702 32,000s or Weebleed 32,500s absolutely does not matter between the two. And then, is that a full build? Folded cell BT 2.0 300 mAh batteries. Camera and canopy. I run like older cameras and canopies, so I don't really have a favorite. The Beta FPV CO3 camera is like the best camera. I have a couple live streams where we did camera testing and compared them all. Pretty much everybody prefers the Beta FPV CO3. The only problem with that camera is it's a weirdly sized PCB on the back of it, so there's not a great camera mount for it. I think maybe the best camera mount for it at the moment is not my favorite camera mount, but it's not that bad. It's the Beta FPV little banana hammock style G-string sort of camera mount. It's just the Beta FPV camera mount. You're going to have to rewire the camera a little bit, which is kind of annoying, but custom building is annoying. So there you go. There's a bunch of options for you. Cameras don't matter all that much. They're all shit. The CO3 is 5% less shitty than any of the other ones. Render says, Pine Sill is open source and can be powered by lipos in the field. Okay, that's pretty cool. So is it basically just the TS100? Because the TS100, that sounds like you're describing a TS100. Render says, just have to be careful to set your voltages appropriately so you don't go below 3.5. What's that in reference to? The Pine Sill? I'm assuming. Curtis Hayes says, CiottiFPV's dad is awesome. There you go. Craig says, great audio memory from your dad. I know, right? It's like, it's just it's just this tiny little thing, right? It's this like this little thing, but it means a lot. I have very fond memories in the basement with my dad. The unfinished side of the basement, he had this giant workbench that was, I think it was a 4x8 sheet of plywood on top, and then there were like shelves underneath it. And then it was so cool. He had the body of the soldering iron. So unfinished side of the basement, it just had the fucking wooden rafters. He had that mounted up top, if I remember correctly, to the rafters, and then the wire for the soldering iron dropped down, so the wire was like always out of the way, and then the little stand thing was down on the workbench. Yeah, the main things, I didn't spend a lot of time over there, but the time that I did spend over there was building RC cars. With him, me standing there and him, I'm sure, doing all the work, and slot cars. We had Tyco slot cars over there, and we would actually do a slot car track on that 4x8 workbench, and it was just the coolest fucking thing ever. I'm super lucky. I had two absolutely amazing parents growing up, and I have a lot of awesome memories of that, and they've made me the, I thought I just felt a screw on the floor. They've made me the person that I am, and I'm lucky enough to be able to have met Maggie, and give Sage and Florence, 18 and 14, hopefully 1% of the experience that my parents gave to me. So... Brandon's White Bean says, those are good props, but the 2023 props are also good. I have some of those here. I'm afraid the 2023s are going to be a little bit too heavy, but I am planning on running them. 661 says, yep, I second GemFan 2023. Triblades are the best props for Mobula 8. They are the stock props. Hey, 661, what are the motors on the Mobula 8? Are these 1103 11,000s? As soon as I get caught up on this chat, we're going to dive in here. DrewBlickFPV says, speaking of YMZ, what do you think of the spec on the new bind and fly they have, the Eagle 2 HD 04 Pro? I have little to no experience with this style of rig, so take this with a massive grain of salt. I will get a little bit more experience with these moving forward, but it's been 7 years since I flew any of these like open prop 2-inch kind of style rigs. Boy, my internet is being quite shit tonight. I don't know why. Or maybe it's just the internet that's being shit. We'll know in a second. Brent Anderson says, are you sure that's an hglrc frame? I am. Looks like the Happy Model frame. Nope. hglrc Spectre. Apparently the internet is just fine. Or my internet speeds are just fine, I should say. First and foremost, okay, so yeah, first and foremost, oh, wait. Eagle 2 HD 04 Pro. Okay. So this is, we're off to a bad start. This is carrying around the 04 Pro, which is an awful idea on this small of a propeller. So right off the bat, I'm going to say probably don't buy this. When you drop the throttle, this thing is going to fall out of the sky like a sack of hammers. This is way, way, way too small of a propeller for a VTX and camera combo that I think weighs almost 30 grams. So right up front, don't buy this. If you're going to buy something like this, make sure it is bare minimum a 2-inch propeller, even better, 2.5-inch propeller. They probably make a version of this with those bigger propellers. The other thing is going to be, in order for you to get a good enough power to weight ratio on a rig like this with these tiny little propellers, you're going to have to turn absolutely absurd amounts of RPM, which are going to create a super high pitch, super annoying sound. And so every time you go to fly this, everybody around you is going to hate you. So like, this is why are they doing this? This would make sense if they did it with an 04 Lite, VTX and camera combo, but this is not a good idea in my opinion. Looks like it's 3S 1002s. I think the 1002 is going to be an awful small motor to carry this much of a payload. Wow, okay, so there's like practically no valuable information on here. No idea what the KV on the 1002s is, which is absolutely insane to have a product page without that super important piece of info. Yeah, no, this is not a good idea. Don't buy this. Don't buy this. That is a poor choice in propeller size for this amount of... yeah, it's either a poor choice in prop size or a poor choice in 04 system to put on here, as far as I'm concerned. So, don't do it. Wait for a 2-inch or a 2.5-inch version of that. That would be great. A 2.5-inch version of that would be awesome. Or an 04 Lite version of that might be good. Maybe. Is this a happy model frame? The person that sent this to me specifically said that this was an hglrc frame. hglrc Spectre frame. Spectre's not the right word. Hold on, let's see. Spectre is the name of their AIO. Let's search for whoop. Oh. Wait, where the hell? Petrel, that's it. Petrel. Where the hell did the petrol frame go? Oh, that's right. Sorry, guys. So what's happened here is that I had 2 of these petrol frames. I have lost them because I just went through all my Tiny Whoop stuff and they're not there. I had 2 of these. Apparently I've lost them. I found 2 of these that are 85 millimeters for 2-inch props, and I assumed that this was it. The petrol frames were in plastic bags. Where the hell did they go? And yeah, they came with this little carbon fiber support. Where the hell did they go? I've been told that this is the 2-inch frame to go with. Apparently, this is this is like the most durable but also lightest weight 2-inch frame to go with. I'll tell you what, I crashed this apparently Mobula 8 frame a couple times pretty hard, and it's held up totally fine. And it seems like it's pretty strong. Where the hell did this go? Where did I do with this? If it's not in the Whoop box, I don't know where it is. Did I do a giveaway with this or something? Oh, man. Okay, at some point, I guess I'll buy... Actually, I won't be able to bring myself to buy this until I figure out where it went. If I weren't literally mentally ill, I would buy one of these frames on the next order that I do. But unfortunately, yeah, you know, crippling anxiety and severe depression with a little bit of ADHD sprinkled in there will not allow me to pay for this, because I know that somewhere in this house are 2 of these. So, sucks for you guys. Sucks for me as well. Thank you guys. Wow. Yeah. Okay. This is a Mobula 8 frame. Sorry about that. So I think I've basically built the Mobula 804 here. Once we confirm that these 1103 motors are the same ones that come on the Mobula 8. Mutterson says the TBS mount. It's like XKCD comic that you might have seen. Just in case I posted it in the CiottiFPV Reacts Discord, I will check that out tonight. Gronut says, what's up? Thanks for all the great advice. You're certainly welcome. ORF, if you want to support me, friends, CiottiFPV.com. Join the Patreon. That's the best thing that you can do. Or you can buy some stuff off my Etsy store. Book me for a one-on-one session through Fiverr. Or just message me. All my contact info is on there. Change your bookmarks to my affiliate links. Change your URL bar auto suggestions to my affiliate links. Lots of ways to support me so that you and more people can get more great advice. That was a pretty awful sentence. Or if FPV says, I have a Mobula 7 1S stock and I want to go 04 light, should I slap on an 04 and change the motors to BT 3.0? Yes. If you go to 04, if you go to any digital system, you're going to want to go up to 2S. So you're on the right path there. Question 2, why aren't you running BT 3.0 on your Mobula 704? Thanks a ton. Because it came with XT30, and I have a whole bunch of XT30 batteries, and I only have 4 BT 3.0 300 mAh batteries. I have a second 04 air unit on the way from Pyrodrone. That will be going onto a build with BT 3.0, but Happy Model very kindly sent this to me. And it felt weird to switch this over to BT 3.0 to be locked into these little couple 300 mAh batteries that I've got. So yeah, this will also be cool because at some point I will put this back into a 1.6-inch prop frame and we'll be able to do a little bit of a shootout, BT 3.0 versus XT60, right? BT 3.0 is a pain in the ass because there aren't many batteries out there. But like, is it worth it for the gram or two less weight to deal with that pain in the ass? Maybe not. You know, these XT30 2S batteries, there's millions of them all over the damn place. And maybe there's not a significant enough difference. I bet you there is, though, for the record. Not to spoil that live stream for you, but... Dronesen says the only Tiny Whoop BT 3.0 450s in stock have the long 42mm plugs on them. I'm checking every day. Yeah, that's fine, though, because you want those leads because the mega awesome BT 3.0 setup is to have it in the frame like this, and then you want that longer lead so you can actually plug it in. I want that longer lead, so I'm very tempted to do a Tiny Whoop order like tonight to snag a couple of those BT 3.0 450s before they inevitably go back out of stock. McBuka says, don't pull a bot grinder. I'd be hesitant to fly any big protest in this administration. Yeah, that was, yeah, believe me, I get it. But, you know, I mean, very obviously, before too long, we won't be able to protest anymore, right? Like, that is something that is in the fascism playbook, which is very obviously coming. And so I really do wish that I had sacked up this morning and got up and flew at least one quick battery at the march. The last march I went to, there weren't that many people there, and like, I don't know, it's just everything is very, very, very evil and very, very, very scary right now. And like, it feels super unsafe already to go to stuff like that. But it's also really important for us to go to stuff like that. So like, I don't know. The next one that there is, I will not miss. I missed this one and I regret it. And so I'm going to do something about that and not just bury that regret, and I will not miss the next one. And, you know, that is how we grow and not torture ourselves and beat ourselves with shame. You know, we are going to make mistakes. We're going to make lots of mistakes. We have to own them and learn from them and give ourselves time to think through them and then, you know, be a little bit better. Islander FPV says, have you seen the DarwinFPV CineApe 20? It's a 2-inch whoop that comes with an 04 light. and 04 Pro version. I have not. Look at that ugly thing. On one hand, the yellow is kind of cool because it gives it that, like, I'm a little toy kind of vibe. But on the other hand, boy, is it ugly. Why is my download speed so good, but the internet so shit tonight? What is happening? ThrashFPV says I would commit a felony to be able to adjust throttle expo on my Avata 2. Look at this little thing. Okay. So this is a 3D printed canopy. I don't love that. TPU is awful heavy when there's a big chunk of it like this. It's also probably not gonna... I hope to hell that there's some sort of solid mounting on this 04 VTX and it's not just cradled by this TPU, because that'll come flying the fuck out of there if you crash it. It looks like every other... It looks super similar to every other rig of this type, which I'm not all that interested in, and they don't necessarily make all that sense to me. Like, this is a cinematic only rig. It's not going to crash well. It's not going to fly all that well. And like, I don't understand doing this with a 2-inch prop size. The 2-inch props are going to have to turn massive RPM to make enough thrust, and then they're going to make a super shrill noise. This is the problem with the Neo, right? The DJI Neo is like the most obnoxious thing ever. This is going to be a little bit less obnoxious, but not by much. And like doing this with a 2.5-inch prop is going to be significantly quieter with better efficiency, better flight characteristics. One of the big problems that makes the 2-inch props so loud and so inefficient is that if you look at like the area that you've got to make thrust, when it's a 2-inch prop, that's a pretty small area as it is, but then you block that area with this standoff, and this standoff, and then a bunch of the body, right? So you don't have much area left to make actual thrust cleanly. And so these 2-inch rigs are just so obnoxious. Like, all this blocks thrust. It makes all kinds of turbulence. That makes noise in itself. And then you've got to turn the prop even harder to make even more noise, and that means higher RPM. And so, yeah, these 2-inch builds, they don't do it for me. I've tried a bunch of them in the past, and they become like so obnoxiously loud that like everybody either hates you when you fly them, or if you're trying to fly them in an actual cinematic setting on a set at an event, it's so loud that it bothers the actors, the actresses, the musicians, the riders, right? Like, you try to do live action sports with something like this, and it's going to make such a shrill, horrible sound that like you're going to start to get complaints. This is something that I actually ran into at the UCI BMX event. Even flying 2.5-inch rigs that are going to be nowhere near as obnoxious as this, they said that the BMX riders, this was an event, this was like the last BMX pro level BMX event that fed into the Olympics last year. And the director wanted this one shot of me hovering up above the starting line and then chasing the riders down this massive hill. After I did it a couple times, though, people started to complain at the noise of a 2.5-inch cinematic rig railing down there. Something like this would be even worse with situations like that, right? Like, the sound that these builds make, I know we don't want to admit it, but it is really important. And like, these 2-inch builds are just gnarly. So I don't know about this. A 2.5-inch version of this, way better. Way better. And it's not going to be much bigger, right? Like, it's going to get half an inch bigger, right? Because 2.5-inch props, they're going to grow by 1/4 of an inch in each direction, and so 1/4 of an inch, half an inch bigger. If you're missing a gap by 1/4 of an inch on one side, I got news for you. You weren't going to make that gap anyway. And a 2.5-inch rig will fly better, and so you'll actually have a better chance at hitting that gap. Thrash FPV says, I would commit. Oh, no, we got that. Cjo says, I forgot you're still using a QX7. Shoot FPV says, I think the 04 does some built-in LUT. The 04 Lite has... So, LUT is light uplook... light... Is it uplook table? I think it's light uplook table. Nothing has built-in LUT. LUT is an acronym that has been used in the cinematic world for a bunch of contrast, exposure, black point, white point, hue, tint, saturation settings that are baked in. So, like, nothing has built-in LUTs. LUT is just this weird acronym that gets thrown around a lot in, like, Premiere and whatnot. None of this stuff has built-in LUTs, but what the 04 Lite does have, or doesn't have, is, what do they call it? D-Log? DJI calls it D-Log, which is just raw. It's super annoying. I really hope that they can change this in a future firmware update, but what you really want is to set any camera up to record raw with no adjustments to any of those, to contrast, saturation, tint, hue, anything. And then you do that after the fact. The 04 Lite has a bunch of that stuff baked in a very similar way to like what happens with JPEGs, but not all the time. You can have like a raw JPEG, but basically it's a bunch of settings to make most scenes look decent. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work. And so if you were talking about the 04 Lite, you're kind of right, but yeah, the word LUT is it's actually not. I mean, what's interesting is LUT does apply to all of those things, so it's not a terrible idea to use that word the way that you did, but technically speaking, LUT is typically sort of thrown around more in the Premiere and DaVinci Resolve world. Scott Stevens says, Whoop motors wires twisted together or straight and separated? Twisted together. They are less of a obstruction to thrust when they're twisted together, and it shortens them up a little bit, which is nice. Curtis Hayes, YouTube just did the thing, scrolling back up. Oh, wow, I'm really far behind in chat. I'm going to have to start skipping chat comments because there's some stuff I really want to get to in the chat. So apologies if I skip your chat comment, but it's just going to have to happen that way. Thrash FPV. No, we talked about that. Where the fuck was I? Curtis says, Scott Stevens straight, the ESC uses PWM to send power to the motors. You don't want to cancel that out, which is what the twisting does. That's why Ethernet is twisted. I've twisted motor wires forever, and I've never had an issue. Denzel the Terrible says, I remember helping a photographer take the IR filter off a $10,000 Phase 1 digital back. Nerve-wracking, but super cool images. That's insane. Morton Upshot says, make Maggie and the kids watch Flow State. It's in a perfect world, that would be cool, but they would tune out pretty quickly to that. They have no interest in that. Cjo says, yeah, I have depression too. It's definitely hard not to bury it. Every Day with Bruno says, didn't realize how much sorrow I had. Stopped myself going to funerals, thinking I was protecting myself from the hurt and the pain. I was wrong. Yep. Emotions are human, and we are humans, regardless of what the culture tells us. And so to bury emotions takes away your humanity, literally. Euro says, you want to cuddle? I do indeed. Thrash FPV says, how'd you meet Maggie? Match.com. Maybe I won't miss chat comments. I'll just go through them at 10,000 miles an hour. Bagzilla says, you're a real man. Thank you, dude. Every Day with Bruno says, CiottiFPV is one of the cornerstones of my therapy. His knowledge, kindness, and rant speak to me. Mainly the rants. Render says, yes, the Pine Tool's open source iron. It's like $100. Use the same tips, but for $40 instead of 55 to 75. Very cool. 6is1 says, yes, those should be the stock Mobula 8 motors. 1103, 11,000. Very cool. GemFan 23 is the stock props. Well, it's super funny. I've literally built, without realizing it, I've literally built a Mobula 804. Although, I mean, I guess maybe they might... nah, they won't change this frame. They'll do exactly this. If there's a Modulate 04, it will be this, just minus the ORT antenna. That's funny. Drublick says, thanks, you're certainly welcome. Uriel says, nope. Midnight Jesus says, remember to tell people to delete Honey since it will override your affiliate links. Yeah, if you're using Honey or anybody that you know is using Honey, get rid of that shit. If you want to know why, search YouTube just for the word Honey or like Honey bad people or something like that. They're a shitty company doing shitty things and ripping lots of content creators off for millions, hundreds of millions, probably, of dollars. Awful company. Awful what they're doing and have been doing for a long time. Lots of info on what it is. You should watch it. It's pretty eye-opening, and it'll get you all fired up. So, and the recent info on YouTube about Honey is a really good example of how phenomenal like content creators are getting at journalism, which is kind of cool. 661 says the part that breaks on the Modulate frames is where the struts connect to the ducts. Actually, brand new out of the box. They look like they're not molded well and not attached well. Oh my God, you're right. On the one of them, there's like a gap in the mold. Yeah, I can totally see that. There's like a really sharp angle there, and the plastic gets really thin there. That's a poor design. I'll break them, and then that'll give me if I break these, then I'll have to buy one of those petrol frames, even though I won't be able to find it. Well, that'll feel bad. I will be making a very angry face buying one of those frames. Jordan says, could you do a live stream converting 2S XT30s to BT 3.0s? Almost certainly. I will do that at some point. Maybe. At some point I'll do it, for sure. With at least one. Alley Cat says, peace comes from within, do not seek it without. Quote from Buddha. I love it. Craig says, please share this transcript site with whoever you want. I'm going to be doing a Patreon post tomorrow with a link to Craig's transcript site, which is really cool. Transcripts of all the live streams. It's super awesome. You're going to love it. Lookup table, not uplook. Did I say uplook before? Wow. Look up table. Look up table, not uplook. Not light uplook table. Yikes. Yikes. Curtis Hayes says, Chatgpt says 04 comes with a LUT. Interesting. I heard Mads, I think, say it does for the Goggles 3 when viewing the 04 Pro video, so you record in D-Log, but see it in nice colors, maybe. Oh, interesting. The goggles. Well, on the 04 Lite, the adjustments, all those adjustments are baked in, so it's not necessarily happening in the goggles. It's definitely happening. It's happening on this VTX actually. Apache Smoke Wooded Sniper says, "Good morning." Euro says, "Did you burn your nose hair?" Nope. Caught up on chat. Awesome. All right. Ooh, that's late. Okay, I'm gonna fly through this as quickly as I can. First and foremost, 2-inch propellers. Let's troll a bunch of websites real quick to see what 2-inch props are out there. First up, Weebleed. There might not be any on here because Weebleed is really dialed into Tiny Whoop specifically, and Tiny Whoop is kind of associated mainly with 1.2-inch and 1.6-inch props. All right, so we've got no 2-inch props on Weebleed. No problem. Tiny Whoop, what do we got? Store, props, nothing. 31, 35, 40, and 45. No surprises there. If you were ever wondering, those are the two websites. Those are the two Tiny Whoop websites, and neither one of them sell 2-inch props. So if you're ever wondering what prop size Tiny Whoops stop at, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Newbie Drone, what do you got? Propeller. 2-inch, 7 options. 2015, that's what I've been flying so far. These are not for Tiny Whoops here, nor are these, nor are these. Too heavy, too many blades. These are for 2-inch CineWhoops. GemFan 2023 Hurricane, I've got some of those here. Great. And then same deal here. Pyrodrone. Props. Oh, for Christ's sakes. By size, 2-inch. No. Got them. I have some of these on the way. I think that these might be the props to have because they're nice and lightweight. This is more of a... So these 2015s that I have on here right now and these 2023s, these are not really tiny. I don't consider these to be tiny whoop props. In my opinion, these are more open duct propellers. Mainly because the tips on them, they're not bullnose. They have propeller tips that are designed to blend the high and low pressure zones cleanly. To put a prop like this up against a physical duct or guard, whatever you want to call it, you're not taking advantage of this guard. And so I don't really consider these to be tiny whoop props. Now that I look at these are also kind of heavier propellers. You need a heavier, more durable propeller when you don't have the prop guards and the propeller is going to hit the concrete. These are much thinner, much lighter. I can just tell by looking at them. Unfortunately, they're not bullnose, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. So these, I think, will perform better on this rig, and I have a few sets on the way from Pyrodrone. I don't know why that order's taken so long to get here. I also have a couple sets of these on the way. 2009 triblades, 2008 biblades. I'm hoping these propellers will be even better than what's on here right now, but these 2015s are pretty damn good. Nope, too heavy. Oh, I actually have some of these. So I've got these sub 250 HQ 51 millimeter triblades. Unfortunately, the top of this propeller is closed in. So you then have to drill this propeller out with a 1.5 millimeter drill bit. And in the process of doing that, because this is pretty thick, this plastic here, you end up removing so much material from the inside of this prop that they just fall onto the motors. And so, unfortunately, these props are just unrealistic. Also, when you're trying to drill this out, you're going to remove material uneven, and then the prop is going to wobble. So, yeah, this propeller is unfortunately completely worthless. These are going to be too heavy. Too heavy. And for the Avata, these are both Avata props, it looks like. Too heavy. Too heavy. These are closed on the top. Worthless. Too heavy. Too heavy. Closed on the top. Worthless. Too heavy. Too heavy. These are probably going to be too heavy. See how they're set up? They're set up to use M2 mounting screws, and see this hub? It's got this giant hub. This is a solid plastic hub. That's gonna your response time is gonna go to hell. Don't get these. Here we go with the 2023s. Oh, these are the old school 2023s that are set up with the bigger hubs. The 2023s you want are the 2023 S's. These are the old school 2023s. You don't want these. That's got too heavy of a hub on them. M5 mount only. But these are 2.9 inch. You definitely don't want those. Too heavy. This is a 2.5 inch prop. What's that doing in the 2 inch prop section? This is another 2.5 inch prop. The Emax Avan Blur 2 inches, they're a little bit too heavy. This is a great prop, though. I really like these. And the 4-blade versions, but again, too heavy. Azure 2035s, again, a little too heavy. Big, thick hub on them. These are out of balance from the factory. 2.5 inch, 2.5 inch. Here's the 4-blade Avans. Again, a little too heavy. Old school 4-blade GemFans. These would probably actually work. These have a smaller hub on them, and they are bull nose. I don't remember. These might have balance problems, though. These GemFan Hulky 2040s definitely have balance problems. Don't buy these. Lots of old school props on the Pyrodrone website. Very impressive. Propellers, micro propellers, size, or no, prop length. 2, 36. What? I'm going to go through this fast because these are probably all... I'm only going to call out ones that I haven't seen yet. What is this? 2023... Okay, yeah, no, 23.3S. So, here you go. Here are the props that you want if you're going to go down this rabbit hole. GemFan Hurricane 2023S. GemFan Hurricane. And if you're going to do the 2-inch thing, just get these all. It's going to cost you like less than 20 bucks. And then you'll have all the different options. You can figure out which ones you like the best. GemFan Hurricane 2008. In theory, these are good. I haven't run them yet, but they're on the way. GemFan Hurricane 2009. And then the 2015. Here. Those are the ones. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. If you really want to go bananas, try those old school ones from Pyrodrone, but all the rest of these GemFan 2035 bullnose, if you want to go completely nutso, these are maybe worth a shot. Don't get these gray 2015s. They only have a 1mm motor shaft. Yep, stay away from the rest of these. I have all of these props, by the way, but I'm not going to test them because they are old and most of them are out of balance. Yep, nope. Nothing there. RDQ now has the same selection as GetFPV, so we're good. So there's all the propellers. I'm going to just really quickly weigh the 2015s and the 2023s. The response time with the 2015s was actually pretty good. If these 2023s are significantly heavier, I'm not really all that interested in them. I will definitely try them, but I don't think they'll be the way to go. I'm going to weigh 4 of them because that makes the scale more accurate. So 4 of the 2023s are 2.9 grams. Can somebody divide that by 4 for me? And then 4 of the 2015s are 2.29 grams. Can somebody drop a chat comment with and tag me with the dividing those numbers by 4? It is. I've been streaming far too long for my brain to be able to handle that. Very simple calculation. These HQ ones that you should not buy are probably what these GemFans that are coming are going to weigh, which is 1.81 grams for 4 of them. But again, by the time you drill through that plastic on the top of the hub, you'll have ruined the inside of the propeller. And on a 2-inch rig, that really does matter because it's going to make a lot of thrust, and so it's going to throw those props right off. Uriel tagged me and said things that I can't understand. Oh, shit. All up weight on the entire rig. All up weight on the whole build with the lighter props is... Whew, that's heavy. 46.8 grams. Boy, that is a fatty Fatterson. 46.8. It hides its weight. I'm not going to say well, but I'm shocked that it's that heavy. Here's me flying around the house. This was a terrible idea. This was very difficult. But I did it for you guys. So 1600 ISO. I gotta slow down when I do that. 1600 ISO, 1/60th of a second shutter speed. Boy, is it nice to be able to do this. 4K 60, 4:3 aspect ratio. Rock steady off. Color normal. A little dark. But 1600 ISO is starting to get really noisy. Realistically, this 04 light, and so this is also the white balance is locked at 5500, which is like outside daylight. It's if you're gonna fly this a bunch inside it, and it's full incandescent light, you would want to maybe change that, but it's not when your white balance is this off, it actually is kind of challenging. The reason why I have it locked is this. The lights that I have in the basement here, I can set them to 5500. If you're going to regularly fly inside in incandescent lights, though, you should match your white balance, because when it is that yellow, it is hard to fix it in post, and it just doesn't look quite right. Nobody divided by 4 for me? You lazy fucks. I don't blame you. I wasn't willing to do it. This feels huge inside. This is not a good idea. It's heavy enough that it will like break shit. Actually really, really break shit. And it's just not fun. It's just way too heavy and way too fast to be flying inside. This makes no sense. But I did it to try to show you. I think you can see that, right? Like, after every move, I have to, like, stop and, like, oh my god, it's about to hit something. Just get it hauled down, get it stopped. Also, like, when you hit these gates and it, like, sticks to the gate, it's got enough power where it, like, it just makes a horrible noise and, like, you're going to start, like, ruining your gates and shit like that. This is a terrible idea. 2-inch 2S is outside only. This is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know. I don't even know if I would want to fly this like in a warehouse. Maybe. But this is an outdoor guarded rig for sure. Yeah, like that was a full room power loop, and like I couldn't even pull it off. Like this is not. This is a pretty big room, and this, like, look at that. Like I can't even just. No, this ain't good. Not a good idea. That was actually the battery popping out of the tray. Last little bit here. I actually flew outside. I didn't realize it had gotten this dark out. It was pitch black in the goggles. I was like, oh shit. I had a hard time even like finding the front door to come back inside. Good run times though, sort of. This is on a 420 mAh 2S battery, and I was flying inside, so I wasn't really pushing it hard. But we're up at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm very curious if how much heavier this 2-inch 2S rig is actually going to give you any better run times. Like, yes, you can just slam like an 850 mAh battery on this thing, but then it's not necessarily going to fly all that good. And so, yeah, it's really, really, there's like a bit of a misconception that like, no matter what, when you go up in prop size, you get more efficiency. It's not that easy, because sometimes at the small, so like with 65 and 75, for example, there's been a lot of time and effort spent optimizing those platforms. So the propellers that we have, the frames that we have, they have all been shaved down to the point where they are as light as possible. 2-inch, which is not all that popular, has not had all of that R&D time thrown at it. And so if this frame is needlessly heavy, if these propellers are needlessly heavy, if we don't quite have the perfect prop to motor combo set, there's actually a chance that 2-inch will give you worse flight time. All think like at the same power to weight ratio, right? So if we pick like 6-to-1 power to weight ratio, if at the 2-inch size, which this is a total possibility, if there has not been enough optimization done, we might not necessarily get better run times. We can put big old batteries on a 75mm rig, right? We can put big old batteries on a 65mm rig. It makes them fly like shit. We can also put a big ass battery on this 2-inch rig, and it's gonna fly like shit. You see what I'm saying? So where where the one thing though, unequivocally, that a 2-inch build like this will do is handle wind better. Because it's bigger, because it's heavier, because it makes more thrust. It will deal with wind better. And so if you live somewhere windy or you want a platform that will handle wind better, that I think is the main reason to do a 2-inch build. When I was flying this thing outside, I absolutely noticed the extra weight. And it made shooting gaps in, you couldn't see it because this footage is too dark, but it made shooting gaps in the garden significantly more difficult. But for taking this thing places and flying it around where there might be wind, this is pretty cool. The quality of the footage coming out of the 04 light is pretty damn good. But without the 04 light, I can't recommend this 2-inch build. The amount of weight that the HD video systems add matches up well with this. If you're gonna run analog or one of the lighter weight or like HD0 on an AIO5 or something like that, a regular 75mm rig is a better bet, I think. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with 2-inch. Is it the way? I don't think so. Is it a way to deal with wind better? Maybe. Almost certainly. Not maybe. Almost certainly. Is it for flying inside? Absolutely not. So yeah, it's got its uses, and the 04 light matches up really well with it. It barely notices the extra weight of the 04 light, which is kind of nice. But then you absolutely notice the extra weight of the batteries. When I went from the Flywoo 420 to the 450 mAh batteries, it made it fly significantly worse. And I only really liked the way that it was flying on the Flywoo batteries. So this is a 21.5 gram battery. So if you go above 21.5 grams on your battery, you're going to really, if you're anything like me, you're going to notice that it's not as good. The Thi2 battery is 26 grams. The Talon battery is 28 grams. So I really noticed it because I flew the 2 Flywoo batteries and then I flew the Talon battery. The Thi2 battery is the Thi2 450. That's pretty close. 25.9 versus, what did I say with the Flywoo? 21.4. I would still do the Flywoos. If you're going to do a 2-inch build like this, the Flywoo 2S 420s, I think this is the battery to go with. Or even better, go BT 3.0 and get the Tiny Whoop 2S 450s. That'll save you some weight. Even though the 450 mAh battery will probably be a little bit heavier than this 420 mAh battery, you'll ditch the balance lead, you'll ditch the XT30, and you'll have BT 3.0, and it'll probably even out. So that Tiny Whoop battery is probably the way to go. BT 3.0, that 450, you'll probably get like 3 minutes, maybe even more of runtime, and you'll be able to rip. So there you go. All of you that have been bitching and moaning about me not flying 2.5-inch rigs, in your face, you were right. They are pretty good. I very well might leave this together. This AIO has the XT30 lead on it. I have a whole bunch of these heavier XT30 batteries. This setup right here, for me, kind of makes sense. And so I'll dial in the propellers, and I may very well have this be something. I'll definitely try out that hglrc frame. It sounds like I'm going to break these Happy Model frames at some point here. So we'll do a little bit more development there. But I mean, this is staggeringly good. The first bit of testing is going to be RC and Power 1003 motors on another one of these Happy Model frames. I just need to screw them down and I'll throw them over. But I'll tell you what, man, on these, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these Happy Model 1103 11,000 kV motors. This flies really, really nice. So yeah. If they come out with a Mobula 804, very... I don't necessarily know if I can say that I would recommend a Mobula 804 over the Mobula 704. The Mobula 704, I'm really annoyed by the fact that it uses the 45mm props, but there is a huge weight difference between these two. And for flying out in front of your house and ducking in and out of tight gaps, the Mobula 704 is going to be significantly better. So, yeah, if you live somewhere windy, it would be the Mobula 8, I think. If it's not windy all the time, I think the Mobula 704, you're going to be happier with it. It's going to be way easier to fly inside, way more realistic to fly inside. You still shouldn't, but like miles better than this 2-inch setup flying indoors. And then, yeah, better float outside, much more agile, much easier to shoot tiny little gaps through your bushes and stuff like that, which is really, really, really fun. So, yeah, there you go, friends. 2-inch. Not bad. Not bad. Not the answer, but super interesting. I'm glad that I did it. And the testing shall continue. It might... You know, with the lighter props, with a lighter frame, with lighter batteries, yeah, it'll get even better. But it's just big. I don't think we need this amount of size. I don't think in the same way that like 75mm rigs on 1S just don't really make sense inside. Like if you just want something that's different and that's what matters to you, like sure, do it. But like unquestionably 65mm rigs are the answer for flying inside. They do everything better. It's kind of a similar situation here. For like out in front of your house, 75 2S is the way to go. It's just right. If you just want to be different, this is really good for what it is. Or if you want to fight wind, if you want to take this, doing like gorilla whooping with this out in like a city with lots of swirling wind, that's this. That is this for sure. The 75 2S would absolutely do it, but it's lighter weight and it's going to get kicked harder by the wind. This, just the extra mass of this is going to be able to handle that better. And like, you know, if I'd gone to the march today, this would have been the perfect tool for that, right? Downtown, Capitol building, wind, but still, it's still a stupid little kid's toy, right? You're almost certainly not going to get someone so mad about you flying this that they file a report with the FAA. So do with that what you will. But again, I was really, really, really impressed with how this flew. I will get some more flight footage that is not just black. I'm gonna play a little bit of this black flight footage for you at the end of the stream here. I'll play the goggle footage. So in the beginning of the stream, we watched the first flight file. The second flight file here is what I'm about to play. Maybe. Let's see. Halfway in. Is that even remotely viewable? I was hoping there would be a half-decent sunset, but the sunset kind of sucked. And the light fell so fast. Also, my goggles are too bright. I'll be able to dial the brightness in a little bit better moving forward here now that I've adjusted the brightness of my goggles. This is just black. This is worthless. I'm going to play the same battery that I did at the beginning of the live stream. Thanks for hanging, friends. I'll see you Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. Be good. CiottiFPV.com to support me. I love you. Bye. Hey, at the beginning of the stream, I played the DVR footage from on board. Now I'm going to play the goggle footage. How about that? Bye. See you guys Wednesday.